I had a desire to become a world-famous magician. During the time I was in high school and college, I used to practice 10 to 12 hours a day during the summertime. And I remember way on back something that I very seldom share. I think that I was really on the verge of getting involved in the occult. And I began to think how I could start my own religion. I developed different ways of concentrating on a watch or clock, causing it to stop, or concentrating on a glass and it burst into pieces. And obviously these were magic tricks, but I got the idea of starting maybe my own religion. But one day, Sunday, I felt like going to church, and as I was walking along, it was just like a warm coat was put around me. Something like John Wesley said, I felt my heart strangely warmed. I just felt a love and the presence of God, and it lasted all through the church service until afterwards. As a result of that experience, I lost all interest in trying to create a religion, and I became very interested in studying the miracles of Christ from the point of view of a magician, because I realized that if the miracles are real, then Jesus was real. If they were not real, then he was the biggest liar, trickster, and imposter the world has ever known. Dr. Paul Kurtz, one of the 10 most influential atheists in the world, said in one of his books, the reason Christianity has succeeded for so long suggests that Jesus was extremely successful at his craft and perhaps the most successful magician who has ever lived. Well, the problem with that is Dr. Paul Kurtz is not a magician, but I am. I have over 1,000 inventions in my field. I've worked with the world's greatest magician, David Copperfield, on probably over 100 different illusions, such as making the real Statue of Liberty disappear for a few moments. So I don't pretend to know a lot about theology, but there's one thing I know a great deal about, and that's the subject of magic. And I discovered there are 11 different reasons why it had been impossible for Jesus to have been a magician. If Jesus was a magician, now recently I did a television special for the BBC and the Discovery Channel and on the miracles of Jesus, and they wanted to know if I could walk on water. Well, 10 or 15 years ago I developed an illusion of walking on water that we can present on the stage with a big water tank, and things go under my feet and over my head. But they wanted to know if I could walk on water on a river or a lake somewhere, and I said, yeah, maybe I can. So I became the first person in history to be able to give public demonstrations of walking on water. But I make it very clear, as I did on the television show, that it took me a number of months and thousands of dollars to develop the techniques that I was able to fool them with walking on water. So I often say that if Jesus had been a magician, then you would have to visualize 2,000 years ago Jesus and the disciples walking through the dusty streets of Galilee in their long robes and sandals with 3 diesel trucks following along behind to carry all the equipment that had been necessary for him to be a magician. So it really goes beyond any possibility that he could have been a magician. But if Jesus had been a magician, that would mean that his 12 disciples would have had to know how he did them. And not one of them ever exposed anything they did, even his worst enemies. None of my staff would die for me by saying that Andre Kole presents real miracles. I told them if they ever exposed any of my magic tricks, they'd lose their salvation. So I hope you know I'm kidding, but I tell people, if Jesus had been a magician, well, Judas would have gone on national television wearing a mask and exposed all of his tricks. So it was through my investigations from the point of view of a magician that really led me to eventually receiving Christ. And I think the best description of my conversion was Jeremiah, where God said, "You shall seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart." And so as a result of that, Christ came into my life was changed, and that was really a turning point in my life at that time.